Our mic's not powered.
Is the speaker on? No, it's that back there, huh?
That's all you get is I'm number
Yeah,
5.
That
It should be on.
Should be on. Not very loud.
Hello. Is that coming out? No.
No, they're charged. They're on.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know if it's loud enough back there. That's muted.
Green dot.
I'm guessing it's turned down.
We had a lot of
Mingo, 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 Mingo. Nothing, Lisa B. Lisa, Lisa.
Can you try them all?
Let's keep it. Yeah. Were you in here today doing some
I was,
singing?
I was just standing back and watching because I didn't have any.
All right.
You can just yell, yell.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order. If you can't hear me, move closer. We'll have roll call. Is there anybody here for public forum? Seeing none, we'll move on. Have a motion for the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Even the minuets.
I mean, it is minuet special meeting, yes. And actually on there, online, it's correct, but it says on your agenda in front of you, it says December checks. It's actually November.
Yep.
I made that correction this afternoon, so.
At this time, we'll open a public hearing to request to vacate the street. And we'll also have a public hearing for the wellhead protection plan. Do you want to add anything? I think, does anybody need any information on the request to vacate street? Anybody here?
I kind of gave an overview last time. I can recap that again if you want.
Very briefly, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you had a chance to look at the attachment I sent out, but basically, since last time the surveyor has the drawing done, and it depicts that it's a 300 of an acre, it's a little odd triangle.
Okay,
That's excess public right of way is what I would call it. When they added on the south side, city must not have gone through the motions at that time to get rid of the north side. So this would be kind of some cleanup work in that regard. So we sent out notice anybody's here, they'd have a chance to speak to that, and then you guys could decide whether or not you're going to approve a draft of the resolution to that effect as well.
Okay. Anybody here want to speak to that street vacate? Hearing none. Does anyone want to make a motion for resolution 2218?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2218.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Does that include the city covering the cost of that legal fees
So,
as requested?
yeah, so normally with something like this, if I'm doing work on behalf of the city, I just bill the city by default. So if you were wanting to do something different, Steve, you asked last time what that would be. I don't know what the newspaper publication is. They would bill that directly to the city.
That was like $58 or
I
something,
think so.
$56.
Yeah, 50,
Yeah.
58 sticks in my mind for some odd reason.
Recording the resolution is $51, and then my hour and a quarter, and this is like $187. So all told, it's like a $275, $300 project. And I think ideally, if the city wanted to pass on those costs when requests like this come forward, the best solution would be to have an app, a fee that people would submit, just like for zoning, other zoning issues. So that could be a long-term idea or solution. If you-
I guess my thoughts on this is it was kind of the city missed when they should have done it, right? So.
Yeah.
But
That's kind of what I was saying.
the resolution doesn't have any costs involved to it, right? Doesn't mention,
No, it doesn't.
Right, doesn't mention anything in there. And I guess as Roxanne pointed out last time, the city didn't have to pay for the surveying, so there is, yeah, right.
Okay.
So,
all right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. And we'll close that public hearing. Now the wellhead protection plan.
Thank you. This shouldn't take more than a couple hours. so. Hi, my name is Scott Hansen. I work for Minnesota Water Association, and I was going to talk to you tonight about your wellhead protection plan. And it's kind of a unique situation. Jennifer Ronenberg, the Minnesota Department of Health, was working on your wellhead protection plan with Devin, and so Jennifer took another job. And Devin is no longer here too. So I've looked through your plans. I'm going to talk about it, but I was not involved in the actual writing of the plan, but I
Okay.
can explain some of the things that are within the plan and why they're in there. So wellhead protection is something that the Minnesota Department of Health requires. It's actually a rule that they have in place, and the plans themselves are good for 10 years. Your original plan was done a while back, and then you guys drilled a new well back in 2015. Here we are, 2022, but through that whole process of things taking place through COVID and staffing issues, you're finally at the place of this, your plan's at the finish line, and it's to be completed. So after the hearing tonight, the plan has one final step. It goes out to local units of government for 90-day review, and at that point, it's in place and in operation and to be implemented on. So as far as the council goes, it's really up to you. Some councils actually, act on it and approve it. Others just, make that note that the hearing was held and that's all you're required to do. So you guys have some flexibility on that, how you actually want to go forward with that moving forward. So basically, the gist of these wellhead protection plans is to tell the communities where their drinking water is coming from and how vulnerable your drinking water is. So within your packets, you guys had a couple maps. The first map is showing where your drinking water comes from. You guys have 3 wells. The latest one, well number 3 labeled up there, was drilled in 2015. That's a Jordan aquifer well. The depth on that one is 704 feet. Then you have 2 other wells there that are closer to town, well number 1 and well number 2. Well number 1 is a well that was constructed in 1936 and it's 1,222 feet deep. That well is considered a multi-aquifer well. So it's actually completed down into what's called the Wanawak Formation. So it actually, the construction, the way this was constructed back in 1936, it actually goes through a couple confining units. So it goes through a different couple of aquifers that it's really pulling out of there. So that's why it's called the Montauk Aquifer well. It's considered vulnerable because of the construction that took place back in 1936. And then well number 2 is another Jordan well. And that well is also considered vulnerable due to its construction because there's not any information on whether that well was grounded at the time that it was constructed. That age of well, that well was constructed in 1949. Most of the practices there, I'm assuming, this well was cable tooled. So when it was drilled, it means it was pounded and the casing was put in the ground. So there's not as much annular space as there would be with rotary construction, but there's just nothing on file to say it was grounded at the time that it was there. So that could be some of the reason why things that are occurring that we'll get into later on.
Do you show anything? It seems to me, I remember we grouted well number 1 when we had pulled the pump years ago.
I didn't see anything in the system on that. There's an older well that nobody really knows anything about too, that was originally constructed as a public water supply well.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that in the plans, but I didn't see anything
Okay.
that would indicate when you did any modifications to that well at the time.
Okay.
Based on the construction here, there's just a single casing. So maybe there was something that was done at the top. There was an annular space, maybe they ran a tremie line down and grouted around that, and that's not showing up in
Okay.
anything that came across. So it's possible that it could
I know
be,
we
but-
did some, I just don't know how far down or if there was any record of it.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything, and I didn't see anything in the record. of the plan that-
Okay.
So because of that lack of information that was on there, it's considered vulnerable. And the other things that make it vulnerable, they look at construction records, and then also Minnesota for Health runs a suite of tests on those wells. And both well number 1 and well number 2 had tritium present in it. So tritium is basically a fallout from nuclear testing. So if you have tritium present in the well, it's basically telling you that post-1950s that your recharge is occurring. So you got recharge that's occurring, in decades, and that's not uncommon for this geologic area that we're in.
Okay.
So that's pretty consistent. The tritium was actually quite a bit higher in well number 2 than in well number 1. So that just kind of indicates there's something that's going on that's making that well a little bit more vulnerable than the other one.
But within acceptable levels? Or-
Yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit about
Okay.
some of the other things that are going on when I get further on there, or I can jump into it now. Well, number 2, the nitrate levels have gone up to around 4 parts per million. The drinking water standard is 10 parts per million for that well. And it's a little unique because it started kind of bouncing in 2016, 2017. So there's not a real consistently, normally when there's something going on in the aquifer, there's background rates of nitrate levels. So it's not uncommon for the Jordan Aquifer to run, 3.5, 4 parts per million in certain areas down here in the southeast, but you typically see that consistently over the sampling.
Mhm.
So this well will go from 4 down to 1.5. So I think it would merit, that well was televised in 2015, I believe, but I think in the plan, if you guys are okay with it, it talks about taking a look at the other well that hasn't been televised before.
Okay.
But if there's an opportunity that this well's opened up, it might not be bad to take another peek at it just to see if something's going on with the casing, not going on with that, because it doesn't quite match, what you see in a lot of other situations. In that other well that's kind of constructed the same way, it's down into the Wanawak and those formations with the well going down there could be some mixing of water. So there could be something going on in the same with that, but you're kind of getting that dilution factor between that deeper aquifer and the aquifer up above it that's going on. And the other thing to keep in mind is with that is, I talked a little bit about that other well that's out there, that old city well. Maybe some investigation into where that is located, because it's located fairly close to where this well number 2 is. And it's potentially, there could be something going on there with that as well. So just a few things to investigate throughout the length of the plan to see
Okay.
what's going on with it. But you are correct, you're definitely below the drinking water standard at the 10. That Jordan Aquifer with that nitrate's 3.5, 4. Like I said, it's not uncommon down here. It's just curious that there's just not the consistency in the numbers that are showing up on the well that kind of has me in the back of my mind thinking it might merit, some more investigation into what's going on in there.
Okay.
So in that map that you have there, you'll see the wells that are indicated. You'll see a red circle around the wells. And what that is that's your 1 year time of travel. So when those wells are pumping in 1 year from when your aquifer, that's the area that you're pulling in your drinking water from. And then that blue line that's around there, that's your 10-year time of travel. So that's called your wellhead protection area. So that's really, in theory, in 10 years, that's the area that you're pulling from the aquifer your water in. And you'll see that yellow line around there, we're great for acronyms. That's called your DWSMA, your Drinking Water Supply Management Area. And that's the area that actually this plan addresses with measures to try and protect your drinking water. And that's basically just squared up on roads and section lines to give a defined region that you can take a look at instead of trying to do, that oblong blue shape on the map and pick and choose on how to define that. So the yellow area is the area that you're going to be required to monitor and do work in. The blue is really where your water is coming from in that 10-year time of travel.
Okay.
And it's not uncommon, especially in this region, that's the 10-year time of travel. I talked about the Jordan Aquifer. You will have influences, obviously, outside of this area because of that longer time of travel when stuff is migrating and moving there. But for management purposes, with the wellhead protection, it's just the 10-year that you're required to work with. Does that make any sense? Any questions on that? And then as far as vulnerability, I touched on it again. Your area that you're pulling from, that wellhead protection area, is considered moderately vulnerable. And that means that you have those recharges occurring within decades. If you were pulling from the upper aquifers there, then you'd be highly vulnerable because of lack of cover that'd be over the top of it. So you're kind of right in the middling of it there. And then with your new well, because of the way it's constructed and what has occurred on that well is not considered vulnerable, even though it's in the same formation as another older well. So those parameters that you look at that tritium was not found in well number 3. And then they look at chloride bromide ratio, which is basically taking a look at the salt that we generate in our daily grind, whether it's road salt or softer salt or anything else that might get in there. So once again, that well number 2 was pretty high in that chloride bromide ratio again, which is an indicator that something, the proper term, but something might be kind of short-circuiting geologically speaking there, that there's some unique stuff that's going on there. You go on to the next page. This was just kind of a snapshot to show you what had changed. So the picture on the left is your original wellhead plan and what your DWSMA looked like before that well was constructed in 2015. So actually the physical area was a little bit bigger originally, and then it changed with the construction of that new well. And that's kind of based on the amount of pumping that all 3 of those wells are doing to deliver the water to the city. So it kind of changed, some of the dynamics and flow within those aquifers when you added that 3rd well in a different region. So it kind of fine-tuned it a little bit, for lack of better terms.
Yeah, we're pulling less from 1 and 2 now than we used to,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, and that sums it up in a nutshell. So the biggest change that occurred is just what's going on with that well number 2 and those nitrate concentrations. Like I said, it's something that does merit some attention, and just from the aspect of if it was steadily 3 or 4, it might not perk the curiosity as much because if it's a typical mode that you're seeing, but there might be something that you can else going on that might be able to cut that off from increasing on in the future.
How often do we test for that?
That is tested on an annual basis, and you never get up to 5.4 or half the MCL, then you go on quarterly monitoring. So then we'll be monitored every quarter from that going forward.
Okay.
Now, if Brian's here, I'm assuming, I don't know if you guys know, that you guys have the ability to blend those wells, well number 3 and 1 and 2, are they all hooked together?
That would be a Brian question.
They're not No, they're not hooked together.
I mean, they, yeah,
Because I mean, that would be something.
It just,
Right.
well, number 3 feeds the main. And the others pump to the tower.
So I
so to
think
speak.
moving forward, if the capacity was there, if something never really went the wrong direction on that other well, it might be something that you could look at to pump, combine the flow and blend those water for those two sources to keep it down below that drinking water standard. That's way down the road, but just,
Yeah,
and there's
okay.
a lot of communities that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that blends when it all goes into the same main system.
It probably, how would I phrase it?
So-
It probably blends, but it's probably not a calculated
Okay,
blending.
right,
Right.
okay.
To get the right amount, so.
Okay.
But yeah, that's something, down the road, besides the other avenue would be, if you ever wanted to go with another new well or you were ever, felt the need, I guess I would go, if there was property to the north where that well number 3 is, it would make more sense to probably go that direction. Just when you're dealing, with the old part of town there, when you get a chance to look at the plan, there's just so many more contaminants that are associated with the old part of town just because of the way, things were developed, the old gas stations and
Sure.
fuel tanks and everything that's there. No fault of anybody, it's just the way the communities take off and develop, so, if you can get kind of out in the outskirts there where you went with that new well, you could get away from a lot of the other issues that are there. Other things that I looked at here as far as, to address within the plan, you got fairly major, travel corridors coming through town there. So as sensitive as this area is, kind of right on the curve there, it's kind of right adjacent to your 1 year time of travel there. Working with the fire department to come up with the spill plans or anything like that. I can't see the fire department shirts, so I'm looking at you guys. I'm not sure whether you guys have done anything with that with the county or the region or anything like that, but we've put a measure in there to kind of look at some of those things within the plan, just to let everybody know that, hey, if something occurs here and where the road is there, where the twist is, just to react to that. So. I'm gonna jump over the goals. You guys can look through that on your own. Basically, I mean, that's just something that Jennifer and Devin must have looked at as what they wanted to do as far as a community to maintain those. The big thing to talk about is this table that's in the back. It's called the plan of action. So those are the measures that actually the city is, once the plan's in place, that you guys are gonna be implementing to help protect the drinking water. Some of them take a little bit of effort and some of them are, pretty low hanging fruit actually to kind of get in there. But, some of the education components, with the website, you can put things on there just to let people know about the contaminants of concern. Since you're moderately vulnerable, the big things that we look at are other wells at that same depth. And then, petroleum tanks, whether they're above ground or buried, are kind of the ones that came to the forefront of the plan here. Some of the other stuff that you typically see in this region, septic systems, that's only if they're highly vulnerable. Some of the other egg stuff that goes on in neighboring communities, it doesn't fit here just based on that moderate vulnerability definition compared to highly vulnerable. I'm gonna jump to the number 4 where it talks about televising or conduct downhole one, well number 1. I think if you guys are okay with it, I will amend that and put well number 2 as well. Even though it's been done once, just kind of with the nitrates that are bouncing around a little bit. Just if it's in there, it gives you the opportunity to do both.
Okay.
Currently, as things sit, every one of these measures that are in the plan and the plan is approved, they're eligible for funding for up to $10,000 for each measure. So that's why I say add it now. In
Yeah.
case if you ever want to do it, if it's in the plan, then you can go ahead and do it. And those measures that are in the plan, it's that legacy money. Remember that 1/8 of this? I keep thinking it was just not that long ago, but it's to be further and further away. So I don't know when that money's actually going to sunset. I think we probably got 4 or 5 years left in that anyway. That money is out there, so. Each one of these individual measures is eligible for that implementation grant, up to 10,000.
Okay.
So that's kind of a nice caveat to, to do some of this stuff. moving forward on. Display a map of the drinking water Duisma. You guys are ahead of the game. You already got it up on the wall there, so I can check that one off.
We
So
aim
you
to
get-
impress.
yeah. So you're implementing before the plan's even in place, so that's pretty good. So, you know, post the plan on the website. I'll let you guys kind of read through here, and I'll just kind of highlight the ones that I think are important. You know, as far as the communication moving back and forth, you guys are fairly fortunate because the resident is fairly small. As far as land use control, some of it goes out into the county and township there. Just work with the neighboring township and county on their land use stuff, and let them know where the Duisma is, make it aware of it. If there's in place. But you're close enough to town, you know, a lot of the big land use stuff probably is, you know, going to be occurring there. I don't know if you guys have, you guys don't have a lot of mining in this area.
No.
You know, some of those things are important to talk to the county about, that's going on. But yeah, it's just basically letting your neighbor know where you're at and what you're up against, and hey, think of us and there's these decisions coming through. I know, you know, whether it's Brian or the administrator, you know, everybody wears so many different hats within the city this size that a lot of this can be overwhelming as far as the number of measures that are in here. So that's why a lot of them are not that complicated to maintain and reach. You'll see some of the language is really, really basic. One of the measures says seal unused wells. The reason for that is it used to be a lot more cumbersome when it came to the grant thing, then there was always questions on whatever they mean. So here, if there's a well in the Duisma, it's there. You know, basically it's just the opportunity to apply for funding if it's a private well even to get that well sealed. But it needs to be in the Duisma for it to be.
Okay.
So, other than that, like I said, that other thing that jumped out was that original well that was drilled to seal the city. We can look at that moving forward. I'm not sure. I probably won't be your, what's called your technical advisor moving forward. We'll probably go back to the person that fills Jennifer's position at MPH. But that's something that they'll work with the administrator and Brian on as far as looking to address that. And some of these things can be done in different stages. There have been communities where, you know, somebody's still around. I think they have an idea where the well is. You can apply for the grant first to actually look for the well, then to prep it to do some work. We've actually had communities get, you know, 3 or 4 different grants by the time it gets done through the process, whether it's finding it, then prepping it, whether it be perfing it or if a pump was stuck in it or something along those lines, and then finally sealing it. And then if for that community well, that would actually fall into another pool of money, that old community well, because some of those can get pretty spendy to seal, especially, you know, your well number 1 here, when it comes time to seal that one, that 1,200 foot, casing, 342 feet of casing. You know, if that's not grown in there, they're gonna require that casing to have holes pulled in it and perf to get the grown on the outside of it, so that'll be a fairly spendy adventure when it comes to that. You know, that other old well happens to be constructed the same way, it can get pretty expensive, so there's a separate pot of money through the Clean Water Fund that you're, typically a lot of times it's the local SWCDs can apply for you as a part of that, or the county can apply for that.
Okay.
You know, with the rut here. That's the surface water wise, you guys are split between the rut and the upper Iowa when it comes to watershed basis. But a lot of the stuff that's going on here in Fillmore with the rut, you can work with them on some of that stuff. And I could go on, but just so you guys think I was kidding about the 2 hours I lost. If there's any questions or you guys have any large concerns. All in all, you've got, you know, that one fairly new well that's out there. Like I said, the only thing that jumps out at me is that well number 2, and just where those nitrates are bouncing, it's still way below the MCL, so it's not like it's something that's immediate, but it just it'd be nice to do some more digging on that and see if we can pinpoint what's going on with it.
Yeah. especially since it's covered, right? We can get a grant for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that initial work with the downhole and the camp and poking a probe, and that's around that, so. I will double check and make sure that gets changed to that. And if you don't mind, or I don't see it specifically, I will put a measure in there to investigate the elevated nitrates in well number 2, so whatever direction you guys want to go as a community, it'll be broad enough that they can cover it.
Okay,
But yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not sure I'll be working with you moving forward, but I'd like to sort of see what happens and how things pan out. We normally kind of divide and conquer the southeast down here, so that's kind of how it ended up with me.
a good task for our new administrator.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any public comments on the wellhead protection before we close that public hearing? See none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have resolution 22-16 to decertify TIF District Number 6. You have any comment on that, Greg?
Comment
Or
questions?
Chris?
That'd be the Army Enterprise TIF District that was set up in about 2013, 2014 for the expansion of their warehouse. It ran its course, we paid everything it needed to repay with EDA, and we'll be able to enjoy the extra tax base starting next year.
Nice.
It's a formality.
It really is. There is just one thing that I'm working with our auditor at the county on. And also Mike Kubani, and we're making sure that we zero that fund. We've been paid our November tax disbursement, so we actually have $10,360 that'll go back to the county, and then that'll be actually redistributed across from the city, the schools,
Nice.
and that. So we give them money to get money back and redistribute it. So, but that will be requested when the redistribution comes in. It'll come back in as just one lump sum as into our general fund to be expended out as we see fit. So
Okay.
that's going to be my request. I'd like approval tonight for that payment as well if I need approval for that, to decertify that and send the funds back to the county for $10,360. I don't have
Let's
that.
do that. Can we decertify it first, or do you want?
Yep, no, you can decertify it first and with the approval. I
Yep.
would.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2216.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then, I don't think we need a motion, just nobody has an issue with her sending the money back and TIF money back, and then it'll come back.
And then it'll come back as,
General
Yep, as
fund.
one lump sum. I didn't know if you guys wanted to approve that or not, or how you wanted to proceed, so just wanted to make sure you knew that I was going to be doing that.
Consider it approved.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta,
Probably required by state law, then you wouldn't assume to.
All right. Resolution 2217, approving the 2023 budget.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2217.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? That's how we decided at the last meeting. That was
Yeah.
Yeah,
not to exceed number, so.
and I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, other communities are in that 5.5 to 5.8. So
I thought this came in like 3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah, this was a 3.5.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sarah Thatcher. Welcome.
And
How much was the citation?
$75 is what I was told that the citation was, which is in my folder. I do have pictures of my backyard where the line break was here, but I figured I'd pass around. And now there are papers too showing I haven't been able to fix the fence either. And I was hoping to pass them around.
You can, yep.
Because I noticed too in my letter that I wrote, I did make a lot of mistakes. And
So,
I've had a lot on my plate.
so how do you control your dogs now without the fence?
Right now I have them in the front yard and they have been staying in my yard. I mean, I'm always out there with them
Okay.
at this point, and actually I have them two here with me right now, which you also might have got to them too, with the armor service dogs. If not, I have the paper, I can also pass.
Yep,
that
they
around.
have, yep, we got them all copied.
So you had them outside and one of them ran off and,
And one of them walked over
Officer.
to the alley into the other yard, and then I was called on, and then the cops came to my house. Again, it's been repeated since July, and I ended up getting a ticket because this little one here ended up walking across the alley and actually pottying in the yard across the street of the neighbors that constantly keep calling on me over dogs, over my dogs.
Steve.
and what broke your electronic fence?
It was driven over. The wire wasn't there, the wire got broke because it was driven over, kept getting drove over.
Had you received warnings, any warnings verbally or written prior to this?
I have, and they have been to my house constantly since July, and I know that, that's why I've also put in the paper in there of all the doctor's appointments that I have, just to show how many I have. And I haven't been able to get to it when I have been fixing it, and I went to go fix it, and of course now it's the weather. And I have a civil suit that I am going to proceed to get reimbursement on the line that has been broke. Because I know that the telephone company was also in the yard too, and they broke my, or cut through the line as well. But they've reimbursed me and have bought me line already to replace the front yard. So I have any yard to run completely really around my yard.
Do we know when this citation was written, the date of it?
It was written, I can pass it around, I'm not quite sure where the date is here.
Should be in the middle of it. October 25th would have been the date of the offense.
Since then, I've been having also the dogs in the front yard.
What's that?
I've also had the dogs in the front yard, everything else since I got this ticket too. And I did run a temporary line around the yard and the squirrel went through it because it didn't have a chance to put it underground, and then it snowed too. I haven't had very good luck with the things since I put it in this year.
And then you have collars for both dogs?
Yes.
So the reason that you're asking us to dismiss this or do something different with it is because
I have to do the civil suit in order to get reimbursed for the line in order to get the fence totally fixed. Because I know it's been ongoing and I have to wait till spring at this point because of all the doctor's appointments I have, which I passed along just to show how many I've had since July where it was starred in them.
Yeah.
And just how I just haven't been able to get into the yard or do nothing. I've had surgery back in July too. There's been a lot of things going on in July because I had my emergency room visit. I literally, the day I got home from the emergency room, the neighbor across the street yelled at me, "Keep your fucking dogs in your yard," and the cops came over an hour later. And they were standing at the end of my driveway. And that was the words to me, and that's the first time she's ever spoke to me. Otherwise, the male over there, I sneezed one day, he said, "Bless you," I said, "Thank you," and that's the only words I've ever spoke to him.
So the initial time that one of the deputies stopped and warned you on your dog being loose, what did they explain to you the city ordinance and that?
They didn't necessarily talk all about the city ordinance, but I know that they brought it, mentioned it and brought it up. And I know that I've been trying to do something. That's why I brought in all the doctor's appointments because I haven't had time to get into the yard to fix it. And I've got a personal care assistant now that's helping me that I've asked for help through the county because I can't get everything done myself because I also have back surgery that I'm needing because
Yep.
I'm physically not well.
Well, we got, all the empathy in the world for you, but it seems like you got called a number of times on the dogs being out. And I'm
Yeah,
just
they
wondering, so now if the fence isn't gonna get fixed till spring, it'll keep happening through the winter too?
No, I'm not keeping them out in the backyard. They haven't been in the backyard since October. They go
Okay.
over into that neighbor's yard because otherwise there's a street out front. And I know I talked to the one neighbor, which they don't usually go in the yard, and I know where the boundary is on the other, and the dogs have not necessarily been walking over, or going over there. If they have, they've walked over maybe a couple feet and I called them back into the yard because I'm always out there with them.
Anybody?
So when you have them outside now, they're not on a lead or a leash or any kind of restraint, it's just you verbally?
Because when they have the fence, the electric fence, they have flags originally to put up, so then when they get close to it, you scold them, yell at them to stop, and so they know where their boundary is, even though they do have to step over once in a while. But, yeah, I have been keeping them in the yard. Like I said, I ran a temporary line and the squirrel ran through it right before it snowed. I got it and I didn't get a chance to get back out there to run another line.
Well, I think I'd be open to waiving it, but
if it does happen again,
right,
I'll take
I'd be more in
responsibility
favor
if it
of,
does.
but I don't know if we can do that, is to defer it. And if there's no further issues, then it stays gone. But if it happens again,
I will,
it might be 2 citations.
Well, and the other thing that could happen is the deputy could choose, instead of writing an administrative citation, they could write a state ticket.
Okay.
And that would be more costly. I'm just being upfront with you.
I'll make sure it won't happen again and I have that keep them in the yard. Like I said, I haven't had them in the backyard to have any disturbances with those neighbors. Because it has been constant, ongoing since July. Like I said, with my doctor's appointments and everything, I know I've thrown my back out with the part of the reason. I know that's why the dogs came over in the first place, because I couldn't be out there with them that day, because I couldn't even get outside. I was lucky to open the door. And then when I finally did get up, I went straight to the emergency room. So I know that was a bad few days, and that was around 4th of July. I didn't even come to 4th of July activities. And I'm always at 4th of July activities here in Harmony. And walking the parade for sure with the DFL.
Well, I'll make a motion to waive it this time. But you have to see to it that it just doesn't happen again. There's no, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's always a reason, but it doesn't make it excusable. So
Yes, understandable.
is anyone willing to second that?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of waiving the $75 citation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
And I forget if 2 carries or if,
It's a tie, it fails.
what's that?
Tie fails. It's like this, you need a majority.
Need a majority, right? Okay. So that motion failed, so you are still responsible for the $75.
Okay, then I will be putting it on the civil suit with the reimbursement for my expense, which I have the paperwork right here. That's why I haven't filed it yet, because I wasn't sure exactly
Okay.
how this was going to go tonight, so.
Yep.
I have a second option then.
Right. Okay. Yeah, wish you good luck with that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yep. EDA. Hi, Chris.
All right, I
Got
got
a-
a few things here. I will, I don't know if the mic's on or not. If you can hear me.
We don't know either.
What'd you say?
It's not,
All right, no worries.
I don't think.
We've got a few things here from the EDA that I wanted to go through for approval, but just please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll just kind of keep going.
Okay.
The first item on the slate is the 2023 Community and Economic Development Associates CETA contract renewal. This is the contract staffing contract that brings me to town 5 days a month. The cost for next year will be $34,750, which is up from $33,100 in 2022. Does look like it has every other year. Day out if there's anything that changes. And this was factored into our 23 budget request, so it wouldn't be impacting the levy at all. And then, like I said, the EDA has reviewed this and recommending approval again. We just appreciate the support.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the contract renewal with CETA.
I'll second that.
I do have one thing, the contract and your email differ by $7. 34,757 in the contract, and you had 34,750.
I wish I could say I was rounding up.
Not that it's a huge deal, but it's $7. So.
Yeah, that's my typo. Yes, the contract rate is $34,757.
All right,
Sure, this is taking out Chris's pay.
Right,
Yeah.
$7 is donated.
Donated to us. That's right. That is right.
Sorry about the
No,
catch.
that's fine.
So it'll be the 757.
Yes.
Yep.
You're right, though. That's good.
All right, any other discussion?
How do we get you one more day per week then besides that, huh? Is that
Food.
Yeah, I was gonna say food.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you.
that. It's been a pleasure working with Harmony for the last 13 years, so I appreciate it.
Thank
you. The next item on the list is our downtown revitalization program request. This is a program that's in its second year. The EDA has had budget funds for projects over the last several years. And we've used that in different areas, whether that was Heritage Grove, Industrial Park. Most recently now we've created this downtown revitalization program with the goal of preserving the nature and character of our unique historic downtown, especially with tourism being so important. If some of these buildings don't last, just that uniqueness may also die off. As well as a lot of the businesses that we want in the downtown that can use those buildings also don't have the margin more or less to such expensive, once in a lifetime type activities. So that's really the goal with this program, is to do once in a lifetime activities of repairs. Try to get to every building downtown that needs it. And try to do one big project a year. So the first year that we did it was Miles and Lisa Miller at the Countryside Bar and Restaurant. This year, the EDA has reviewed 3 applications. It was a very difficult decision, I think, on their part to come up with this recommendation. All were very well qualified and needed, and hope that all the other 2 that weren't chosen this year for recommendation do apply again. But this year they are recommending that the commercial building at 39 Main North, which is owned by Aaron and Amy Bishop, be funded as proposed. The proposal was for the full $40,000 grant, which is actually structured as a forgivable loan. But they'd be providing a match from personal funds of $16,120. And if this is funded, it would actually repair the entire envelope of the building and allow them to continue on with the renovations of the interior. The moisture is causing some issues with keeping plaster and drywall and the such in shape inside. So this would complete the building and allow them to finish off the interior and move forward with their use of it. Just like last year, we would do a security agreement. This basically secured by a mortgage. So like I mentioned, it's a forgivable loan structure. So it does kind of dial down over the course of 10 years. But we have the city attorney put that together for us again. And basically then we check on, are they paying the property taxes, utilities, try to make sure that we're checking that at least once a year, make sure that things are in compliance. If it's not, we get on. If it isn't, we don't worry about it. But yeah, just keep making sure that their end of that bargain is being held up as well. And then the other thing that we put in there too is that reasonable efforts must be made to maintain activity as an active business. So we don't allow like just a storage building to remain storefront, that type of a thing. So just trying to make sure that while we can't guarantee that something's going to be going on there, that all efforts are trending that way. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the program or the specific request, but this one would again be to fund at the program maximum, which again, we have budget funds for. We complete the exterior, repair all the top pointing for the building.
And our payments go to vendors, correct?
The payments go to vendors, absolutely, yep.
And this is primarily for tuck pointing on that building?
Primarily top pointing, yes.
What happens if, like, let's say, like taxes are behind? What do you do? I mean, is there any penalty, or is it just?
Yeah,
Get on
I
them,
mean, the maximum would be that they have to repay whatever's outstanding. Typically though, what would happen is I give them a phone call and remind them that they have this agreement. Again, it's secured by a mortgage, so if we had to collect, we can.
Okay.
But at the same time, we try to make every effort to get it back on track. You know, it's not uncommon to have somebody miss a payment or two, but you know, they're going beyond that year.
Yep.
That's gonna be a conversation the EA has, so.
Gotcha.
Or utilities, you know, on utilities, not necessarily a year, but you know, if they're getting shut off notice, that's a problem.
That's a problem too.
That's it. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this application.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to approve the downtown revitalization award. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you again. I'll be back at your next meeting with our annual report and make a request that we start thinking about next year's budget process, just so we can go out and solicit for this program. So if you have any concerns or questions about extending this program for 23-24, chat with me on the side and we can go over that. But just that we can get out ahead of it, it's quite a lot of work for folks to put those applications together and get quotes and whatnot. So we appreciate that. This next one is another unique program that we've been working on for quite a few years now, and it's really gotten a lot of national and international attention. Actually, I think it's also one of the reasons myself as to why we saw population growth in the community. So we're looking at updating the new home rebate program. This is structured kind of like a TIF or a tax abatement. We originally started it out thinking that it would repay us back, about on a 5-year period, 5 or 6 year period as the new city taxes are created for each new house. The current program allows for anyone building a brand new house or a seriously dilapidated home that, you can't live in. If they create at least, a certain level of new tax base, they qualify for at least $1,000, all the way up to $250,000. If they get to that level and over, they qualify for the full $12,000. You've probably seen the signs around. They've been kind of a popular deal, and people have noticed it. So that's the current program. But the EDA was thinking about how do we stay on that cutting edge with that wow factor? How do we attract new people? How do we keep the program interesting and attractive? How do we stay just up to date with inflation? I mean, cost of things are going up to the roof, and does this really do what it did back in 2014 and have that same impact? So what we're looking at is modifying the rebate program. So in your packet, you'll see the current application form, just to give you an idea of how simple this is. It's just a one-page contact information and some basic information. We also have the guidelines. You can kind of see the current rebate schedule, starting there at $50,000 all the way up to $250,000. Kind of what we're looking at in terms of the specific rules. The next page, that just kind of a bunch of line items of numbers and addresses. That's the actual homes that have received this rebate, as well as the estimated value that is created for the tax base. We've created over $3.3 million in new tax base for this program. And let's just see here. Yeah, then that last column there is showing the different taxing jurisdictions and how much taxes they're collecting because those homes were built. You can look at where they're moving from. We have several that are from out of town that moved to town because of the program. We have several that were spec buildings, so developers building something hoping to sell it. Those brought new people into town in many of the cases, as well as a few multi-unit buildings as well. So it's been a fantastic program when you look at these numbers, and our average payback has been in that 4 to 5 year. It's been a little bit quicker than we thought, which is also good. Again, you're not even counting the utility connections, the garbage rate payers, the buying stuff at the grocery store, and going to school. So there's a lot of activity. It's getting a lot of attention. It's been a good deal. If you go to that next page with the colored columns, this is what the EDA is proposing. The yellow bracket, or the yellow column, is going to be the bracket of values that we're going to adjust. So we're going to lower it a little bit to a minimum of $40,000 in new tax base created. And we're going to expand it up to $500,000 in new tax base created. We don't have a lot of houses in that $400,000 to $500,000 tax range, but
Yes.
getting there. Well, and I think you look at how much they're paying in taxes a year. I mean, we need a few of them too, but what we're looking at doing is basically distributing the values a little bit differently so that we can maximize the benefit for each individual applicant, but then also try to capture the best value for that 5-year payback. So we're expanding those values a little bit better, modifying the green column, which would be the rebate amounts. So instead of $1,000, we'd start out at $1,500, and we boost that all the way up to $20,000, which again would be repaid with those new taxes that are coming back in. But I think even though that we're not likely to write too many of those $20,000 checks, the fact that we can put that $20,000 on our marketing materials and get the attention of, hey, we'll do this if ... And people really do respond every time we're in these national articles. I get 20 phone calls. To be honest, we haven't gotten a lot of actual applicants from those phone calls. Usually people want to know if they can move their mobile home in and we'll pay them $20,000 or whatever. Not the case, but we do get quite a bit of interest locally, and I think especially with our tourism game here, more exposure the better. We were one of only 3 cities in Fillmore County that even saw population growth over the last 10 years. I think this plays a part of it. When you look at people that are looking at build in town versus out of town, this is a deciding factor. In the grand scheme of things, we collect this money back very quickly. We're already plowing the streets, we're already paying for police, we're already paying for the fire department, so why not have somebody there also paying for utility connection? forever. So, that's kind of the ask from the EDA is to, number one, renew this. It's a renewal program every year, so you guys have been doing that every year since 2014. And then two, to expand the rebate values, as well as the rebate payout, for 2023. You know, if we do get into a situation where we write, or are potentially gonna write, 5 or 10 of those $20,000 checks, like the mayor mentioned at the EDA, that would be a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Have to figure out, but, we could cancel it, you know, given that that's a lot of money to write out of our checkbook. So, this can be canceled at any time, just like before, but just so it's kind of are aware of that potential. If it takes off, then, you know, purchase wild. I think that would be a good one to have to do, so. I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of that information. I know there's a lot there, but just appreciate the support, and I think it's a great tool. It's a unique tool. It's something that sets Harmony apart from virtually everywhere else, so.
Yeah, so basically our general fund has funded this. In the beginning, we had a pool of money, but we used that. And it still seems to be a very valuable tool to have. And like Chris said, if we do get too many in, we can always say we're done for this year or for
Forever.
going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point. You know, we really have averaged about 2 a year when you look at it. You know, the first couple of years, I don't think we had any. One year we had 5, which if you adjust for size was actually more people building in Harmony than in Rochester that year. So we kind of do that comparison. 1 or 2 isn't bad for Harmony. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's just a matter of being something that's visible, something that's unique and does attract people and keep them in. You know, this is a cash payment. It's not cash equivalent, you know, it's not a bunch of, you know, trees or a pass for the pool or a library card or anything like that. You know, this is money. If they want, you know, go spend it on new appliances or new carpeting or better countertops, hopefully they do that in town, but they could do that wherever they want and go to Hawaii on vacation if they wanted to. You know, it's kind of the attractiveness of it as well, so.
I'll make a motion to renew the home rebate program with your EDA recommendations.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. I look forward to marketing this and another splash out in media, so stay tuned. The next item is actually 2 items combined. So the first one is a little bit more straightforward. The second one, you might have some more questions about. We've been working diligently with the DNR in the state of Minnesota and getting this new bike trail extension to the gate and to the Iowa border. The construction is scheduled for next year, but we still have some steps to take. It hasn't gone as quickly as we had all hoped, you know, at the very beginning of this, but between COVID and inflation, it is what it is. The DNR has put bids out to build the trail from the south end of town to Highway 30. That's all the money that's available right now. So we're going to go back and ask the legislature for more. We've already worked with Senator Miller and Representative Davids, who have been very supportive of this project and have assured working with us in the next session. So we're hopeful we'll get more money as quickly as possible. But for this first go around, we have a couple of housekeeping items just to make sure that we can continue forward with what we do have. The first item is the city actually owns the trail corridor right now. We got a grant to do that, purchase it all through the lottery money. But the DNR is supposed to get the land back. We're supposed to give that back to them at no cost, but they haven't gotten through the transaction yet. So if the construction does have to start before we actually finish the land sale transaction, they need permission to work on our property, you know, move trees, move dirt, getting started going and that kind of thing. So there is a resolution in your packet that would do that and authorize the agreement that's following that. So the 2 agreements actually are separated by the 2 resolutions. We'd be asking, the EDA is recommending that you approve this first resolution to allow the construction of the trail on our trail property. If needed.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Then the second item under this is another resolution to approve cooperative agreement with the DNR again. We received about $1.5 million in bonding funds for this project back in 2018. One of the things with bonding money is that you get 4 years to actually implement and encumber the program. So it doesn't have to be done, but they have to actually say they're going to spend it, and they haven't done it yet. They might, and they might get it done later this week, actually. But we don't know that until probably Friday. However, that 4-year period ends at the end of the year. And if that happens, then we could be in danger of having to start all over with that 1.5. We wouldn't even be able to build anything in 2023. We want to at least use the money that's on the table while we go get more, but it'd be a shame to lose something being that we're this close. In order to get around that, the DNR said, well, we can get the money and encumber it with the city. And so we could essentially run it as a city project. We'd have to do it to their specification. They have the plans all drawn out, that kind of thing. But we'd have to go bid it again. We'd have to make sure the bids come in correctly. We have to manage the project. We probably have to have the city engineer involved just to make sure that our side is protected and well represented. But they are willing to make their engineers available as well. They are able to provide some oversight. They just need us to route the money through it. So it's kind of like a fiscal agency situation, but it's also more, in my mind, like a street project that we eventually then turn over to the DNR. So the goal would be that we don't own this trail, we don't have to maintain it, but we're going to build it to make sure that that $1.4 million. It's actually less than 1.5 right now because they spent some of it with design. They don't have an exact firm number, but it's going to be in that $1.2, $1.4 million range that we have available for that. The other caveat on that is that we would have to float the money too, which over the course of 6 months to a year isn't going to be too big of an impact, but it would be a reimbursable grant situation. So we spend the money, we send in a pay request, no different than what we did for Darrowland or these other projects over the years. So it's kind of a lot to wrap our minds around, especially because we've never done something like this before. We really weren't thinking about this originally. We really might not have to if they actually can award the bids on Friday, like they hope. But just to have this extra insurance policy, the EDA is recommending that the council engage this contract or engage this agreement just in case it's needed.
And what do we do with that if we don't need it?
So if it's approved tonight, you could approve it contingent upon
Contingent, yeah.
it being the only waiting for certain funds. Basically, the DNR does not award a bid. Contingent upon takes effect if the DNR does not award a bid.
Right, okay.
And basically, you're just saving yourself from coming back between holidays for a
Special
special
meeting.
meeting.
Special meeting,
Yeah, the resolution, if you read the first, therefore be it resolved, basically just says that, if it's necessary to avoid the loss of funds, you guys can move forward. The city engineer is aware of this project, is aware of the situation. They're on board. We're gonna have to pay them out of that $1.2 million, which then takes money away from the construction. It's not gonna be, we have to pay up for the entire design. The DNR's done that quite a bit. But because he's our engineer, we want to make sure that we have to start on board too. So it'll be a little bit challenging too, depending on where we go with the city administration role. I mean, just from a day-to-day managing managing a contract, that might be something that depending on how that all moves forward or doesn't, could be additional responsibilities for someone on council or EDA. So just making sure everybody's got their hands around it.
Has our engineer ever done a bike trail before?
No.
It's a very small street, so I'm hoping it's.
It's not too bad.
No curb cut.
I just know, I mean, yeah, I guess we thought it'd be kind of,
Well,
Not
you
a
gotta, so, yeah, our engineer is involved, but it also has to be built to DNR specifications, so we can give it back to him, so
I mean, yeah.
I'm not too.
I just
their
thought
engineer
that-
and our
It's just
engineer
kind of
work
looking out for
together.
our interests.
Okay.
So it's not.
It's protecting us
Okay.
because we are that fiscal host.
You can discuss it EDA's greatest value for us would be reviewing bids and telling us whether it's good or not.
Right.
Reviewing pay requests, telling us whether it's good or not, things like that.
Yeah, that's essentially it. That's essentially it. And then the DNRs, like Council Member Grabo said, it's all,
Oh.
it's all in their specs. So they'll be overseeing some of it, but they won't be here every day. We probably won't have our engineer here every day either. It's just like a street project.
We've had some issues with street projects, so I don't, I don't know how to, yeah, I guess.
We had some issues with the trail too, not our issues, but
The good thing about this one is once we give it away, it's not our problem.
There we go.
right,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
except for when the holes would get into it and
Yeah.
then they're coming back at us, so.
You're right.
I would make a motion to adopt this resolution contingent on the DNR not awarding bids.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. That's all.
That's it, are you sure?
Thank you. Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Boy, that was easy.
That's good.
Works not the-
That's a bunch.
Sure, works not the-
Yeah, yes, no. It's not snowing.
Yeah.
All right. We interviewed a couple potential new city administrators. And we have their packets. Anybody entertain a motion? Well, I'm going to make a motion that we hire Richard. What was the last name again?
Baker.
Baker. Richard Baker. Is there a second to that?
Second.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? We've seen, everybody looked at the offer sheet. That's pretty much what we did the last time.
I guess my only thing is, what about not hiring anyone and just keeping two
And just keeping what?
running it for right now?
Two what?
Our city clerks.
The two who are running it?
What would be your contingency plan? Would you open apps up again? Would we try to,
Go for a part-time. Would be my contingency plan.
What's that?
That would be my plan.
Okay. You would rather see us look for a part-time administrator?
I would.
What do the rest of the people think?
well, the only thing that I would say is Canton look for part-time, and I know our wage is not similar. Our wages would be different than the city of Canton. But they held theirs open for a significant period of time. They did finally fill it. We'd save ourselves some money in not offering benefits. We wouldn't have a full time, but we only had 4 applicants in this round. I don't know what you would get for applicants on a part-time basis. That would be my fear. Is we get 0.
How do you two feel about not having an administrator?
I say we're holding our own considering the time of year between year end. I'm working with auditors, yearly payroll, regular payroll. Greg's probably getting sick and tired of emails from me. This is our first big agenda that we've done. I think we've done very well. Someone, I think, if we were, I think we are doing very well. So if it was, to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, if you want to call it that, to see if we have maybe someone who's maybe a little bit more project management oriented with a numbers aspect for projection, long-term projection, being able to manage our projects, and really having really solid foundation in that.
Well, that, you know, the work we've done with Mubani on that plan is good, and, you know, you kind of have him in as a consultant,
Right.
so.
I will be honest, I have known Mike Bubani since I was probably knee high to a grasshopper. But he has helped me quite a bit through this TIF stuff. I've never decertified a TIF before, and I go, Chris, what am I doing? We have a lot of people and resources that we can pull from in the interim. So if the personnel committee does, or the council wants to go back and look at other applicants, or I don't know, I don't even know if contracting out is even an option, but
Well, I think if, you know,
But-
if we were to hire Richard Baker, he hasn't been a city administrator before.
Mhm.
So you guys are basically going to train him in, and then he's going to make a lot of phone calls to-
Right.
to find answers. The League of Minnesota Cities is very helpful. I know
Mhm.
that. You should have them on your speed dial.
they are on my speed dial right now, especially with the end of year truth and taxation reporting and things like that.
Well, I'll reiterate what I said after the interviews. We don't know what he's going to be like until he's sitting in that seat.
Mhm.
We don't know if he's going to accept the offer, number one.
Right, yep.
And then the offer now includes a 1-year probation, which helps us, if things aren't working out, to say, things aren't working out, it's time to separate. So maybe we need to be a little bit more asking and seeing. Maybe there's a little bit more, do we spell out what he needs to kind of do a little bit better? Not necessarily in the contract, but once he accepts that, as we bring him in and say, okay, you need to take payroll training and you need to kind of do these things within that first year.
Mhm.
And then if they don't complete that, then we have something, a little more leverage to say, nope, but you haven't completed it. It's time to separate that tie. So,
I think we got pretty good level with a probationary period. We don't really have to have a good reason.
we don't.
We can just say,
Yep.
we
Just,
don't,
you say, we just don't want the position.
Yep.
Or
Correct.
we don't want
But
you. We're gonna
if-
do this.
if you want to say that so you don't portray that bad light,
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
yes,
Or have a fight you don't need.
right,
like he didn't fulfill his obligation.
correct.
So the thing, Doctor, you were looking at was just the offer, and then what happened last time and what would be advisable this time is followed up with some sort of employment agreement.
Correct.
The one that was used last time, I think, was 3 pages long, so it could be elaborated on to the level of detail you guys would want if hiring somebody.
How do you feel?
About not having one, we keep looking.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, we're surviving right now, so I guess.
I mean, I don't know how long before we burn you both out? That's, I guess, the other question.
Well, right now you're throwing a lot at us, and it's like drinking water from a fire hose, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
'Cause it's just end of year. I think there's just a lot of things. If you're looking at, if we take our month-to-month things that we normally do with between the billing and, my ambulance calls, and just regular payroll, it's not as heavy as this. This is a really heavy month in a lot of things.
It'd be nice if we could get
It-
enough ambulance staff where you wouldn't have to be on call all day, every day.
Yeah, well, and that's something too that, you know, like I could look at around payroll time. And I'm probably going to have to around payroll time. I mean, we do have a couple of daytime staff, the EMTs, that could, you know, potentially cover my shift or, depending on how our payroll falls.
Did I hear Jesse say he's going to? Is that right?
What's that?
Because I need one more thing to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's, I mean, and that's something that, you know, we totally could look at too, with, you know, if I needed to be in the office and finding,
Yeah.
we do have a couple more EMTs, you know, in town.
Okay.
You know, and having some of my daytime shifts covered, so.
If I ever want a day off.
Yeah, she's sick or has a sick, you know, or.
Well, you know, and
one is
that
sick.
becomes the other
You
issue
know,
is,
that's the other thing too.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
you know, we could, if we don't approve this hire, we could look at doing an interim of some sort until we figure out what we're doing too. I don't know, you know, there's,
Well, we do have, you know, on the finance side, we have Bubani. On the EDA side, we've got Chris. So we've got like outside consultants we're paying
Yeah.
that do a lot of the work that an administrator might do.
Yeah.
And I
in a
do, and
different
I
city.
will say too, that, you know, our auditors and stuff are really responsive, and I've worked with them since I started, 2.5 years ago. So, you know, if you do have any questions, they're an email away, and it might take you a day or so, but you'll at least eventually get your answer. And Greg showed me a few places that I need to look as well for procedure wise, and, you know, and
Thank you,
direction
Greg.
too, so.
Yeah, a few short years ago, we had Jerome Mild and Eileen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I think two can do it.
Yeah.
If you're not gone all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just,
you know, and that's the thing, you just never know. What's gonna happen during the day, and you make do. Might look a little bit later at night, but.
Are one of you clerk or just the deputy clerk?
Deputy clerk.
She's a deputy clerk, and we have to have a clerk.
Yeah, if you
So we'd
don't
have
hire
to-
an administrator, it's something that would need to adjust, reduce the titles.
how soon would we have to do that? If,
That I don't know. I would say, without looking it up, I would say if you don't make any hire or offer tonight, then we would want to investigate that.
right,
Yep. And even appoint until we change our mind.
correct.
All right, any other discussion? We'll call for a vote. If it fails, we won't.
I have a question. Who seconded your motion?
I did.
Thank you.
Jesse. All right, we'll call for a vote. We had a motion and a second to offer a position to Richard Baker. In the discussion, we talked about possibly not. Call for a vote. All in favor of offering the position to Richard Baker, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails.
The failing
Um,
motion that
Now
passes.
I'd make a motion to appoint a clerk. Since you're already deputy,
We can make her a clerk, right?
Or do we need to explore that just a touch before we? I mean, we can always come back to it, I guess.
I think we appoint one and then we have one, and then if we gotta do something different, we can. do
Yeah, we
something
can
different.
revisit, I guess.
Technically,
Yeah.
Then we'd appoint.
sign things and to do business, we might need a clerk.
No, I
Yeah,
agree.
there's some statutory responsibilities
Okay.
that trace back to it.
Yep.
I guess the only considerations you might have is, does that make a difference in where a person's ranked for pay purposes, and are you prepared? I don't know if it does or not, based on the personnel.
Well, to me, assigning that could possibly do that because they would be more like an interim administrator. Now, would that fall in line to getting administrator pay? I don't know.
Well, that would.
That's a secondary.
It would be
to
a
this.
clerk, so it would either be a different grade, or we could do some steps within the same.
Correct. We can do whatever we
Without
need to
the-
do. Yeah, we just need to.
Refer back to the wage study, that should spell this out, I would suspect, right?
Or you could just keep it.
Well,
easy.
Well-
So
it was
just
done.
stay where-
wage study, I think, yeah, that does.
I don't know if we have a specific one for clerk. But for a city clerk, you know, I know we have the deputy clerk, we have the finance clerk, and we have the administrator, so
Mhm.
we might have to look at that. But
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Samantha as clerk.
I'll second.
Leave
that.
deputy as, Lisa as deputy clerk. And then we'll explore the wage discussion at the next meeting.
Good.
Everybody can do whatever research they want. Would you accept that position?
I don't know if I have a choice.
You have the ultimate choice.
Yeah.
Is there a second to my motion?
I second it.
We have a second, okay. Any further discussion? All right, I think with a lot of cooperation, we can make this work. Greg will be very useful and instrumental.
Yeah. Yeah, Craig.
All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
abstain.
Motion carries. All right. Anything to report on the wastewater treatment other than what we have in our packet? Or building and maintenance?
The plow truck
Southern.
came,
The plow truck came.
finally.
Yeah.
Looks great.
The only thing on the wastewater treatment plant, they did get, there was, his bill was a little bit higher this month by like $1,200. There was a pump for the,
Yeah, it's in the plan.
it's in the claims. They had to get a pump, for some solids that were used to be broken up that they couldn't pump out, and it was a little bit extra work done.
Oh, that was for the application.
Spider.
Yeah,
Sprayer pump.
Oh, to get the,
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
could apply the biosolids.
Okay.
out. That's what that was for.
That was it.
EDA board, industrial park update. What's
That was copy and paste error.
Yeah, it totally,
Yeah.
It was a
that
busy
was,
month.
that was my fault.
We got that,
No updates.
No,
it's still there.
Placeholder.
that's a placeholder, that's what that is.
Yep.
Yep.
Park board,
Didn't meet.
library board,
Met but didn't have a quorum.
okay. Arts board,
I think they didn't meet. They would have met the night that we had council before, but I don't think they had a quorum, and I wasn't there because I was late to the council meeting. But we did do the residential lighting.
Oh, you gotta bring it up. Gotta
Um,
bring it up. Gotta bring it up.
Mingo made it to an honorable mention. Barely.
Barely. Barely.
Matt and Heidi Brown were the winners, and
Be ready next year. Be ready.
I
Ready
don't
with
remember the other
something.
ones were. I have it in my email somewhere, but two other ones, but those were Harmony Dollar awards. No,
I'd have to look.
I'd have to look.
Scraybacks and then
Yes.
Scraybacks,
Devin Scrayback, and then,
who bought Del Elston's house?
yeah,
Can't
Del
think of.
Elston's old house. Was the third.
Gonna have to get
so
over.
think about the next meeting. I'll make appointments. And if you can kind of look at all the boards and the members, and see if they're all, I would guess somebody would tell you they're resigning if they're resigning. I would hope. Otherwise, it would kind of remain the same.
Do you?
But
do you
there'll be
want me to-
one counselor for planning and zoning, two counselors on EDA, one on park board, one on library board,
We have two on park board.
one on, what's that?
We have two on park.
Two
board.
on park board now.
Two on park board?
Yep.
That's a good idea. So that way we got a good chance of at least having one there if somebody's busy.
Would you say
The
one
two
on
most
park
punctual
board,
ones.
Yeah, I know.
two park board, and
Two guys that are always here early.
Two
One on
park board,
library?
two
We're
EDA,
gonna miss that
one
meeting.
on, are you the only one on library right now? Yep. And then arts board, you're the only one on the arts board.
Yes.
Uh, And then
Then you have to fill what Steve was on.
somebody's going to be the representative for the Fire Relief Association, one member for that. So I would have all counselors and this new perspective, or
Newly elected,
counselor-elect.
there you go.
Everybody can put in like their top 3 choices. And if you only put in one, you may or may not get it, but you probably will. And you could get something you don't ask for.
Do you want me to send you the current list?
Yep. And you might find that Devin did it last year, so you might find that somewhere in his packets.
It's actually
Fire department, we should, there's nobody here except for you two.
What more do you need?
They did nominate a new chief,
Yes. That would be Craig Moore.
Craig Morum, and council needs to approve that. The rest of the slate stay the same as far as
The way it sounded,
chief assistants,
if you want to change it, I guess.
Rod
you'll
will
have
be assistant.
but I believe we've let the
Staying.
chief
right now.
appoint his assistants and training. So I'll make that a motion to approve Craig Morum as the new fire chief.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then we should thank Rod Johnson for his many years. Was it 10
10
years?
years.
10 years.
10
as
years
chief.
of service as a fire chief. Steve Lindstrom passed away, and he was instrumental in helping finish up the splash pad when things were not going as planned, and lots of new developments coming in all the time. He put out a tremendous amount of effort and time, and donated some dye for the pad. So
I'll make a motion that we do something, being anything for remembrance of him at the splash pad.
yeah, we did. We sent out flowers from the city and the counselors. Some things we can consider, I think at some point we should, I finished that motion, right? We got the new chief done.
Yeah.
We could possibly do a naming of the splash pad or that Trailhead Park. Doesn't really have a name other than Trailhead Park. Somewhere I'm thinking we should be honoring Donnie Wilkin.
Definitely.
Lots of resources have come and been very helpful. And then, we should do something for in the name
Probably-
of Steve Lindstrom too.
Bring that through park board too.
Yeah.
Both of those, the Downing Wilkins Fund and Steve Lindstrom were working directly with the park boards.
Yep,
On
yep.
those projects.
Yeah. So, you can discuss that whenever you.
January, I think we have a meeting.
And we have a nice sheriff's report, a bunch of stuff. Anybody else have anything for our meeting?
I'd like to thank Allison. She went up to Rochester this afternoon and was on the news talking about tomorrow night's, what's called Christmas and
Holiday in Harmony,
Yeah, Holiday in Harmony. So
Wagon rides.
s'mores out at Visitor Center. Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you for representing us.
Now, if we don't get snowed out, right?
It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
It's more rain
Raining.
tomorrow, snow
Raining
Thursday,
good.
Friday.
All right. If no one has anything else, we're adjourned. Oh, yes, what do you have?
Is this the time and place to discuss property taxes?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know the tax doesn't.
What's that? I think that's,
That was our truth in taxation.
I think we do that in April, or May? No,
April.
April. We
The
did
levy
levy.
was- the levy was-
we did the levy. Yep. We passed the levy. Yep.
21, 22% raise this year.
Uh,
Total, total,
yeah, how much of that was your property valuation?
yeah, that went up 66,000.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
a reason why.
And the county assessor, he was at our truth and taxation meeting and explained that he did move a lot of residences up, a number of commercial properties.
Now that 22% in 5 years, property tax will be $16,000.
Pardon?
At 22% in 5 years, my property taxes will be approximately $16,000.
So you're projecting 22% every year
Yeah.
from go up.
So
Well,
the other
We're
thing,
working to not have that happen.
if your taxable valuation went up $66,000, there's most of your 22%.
Cities overall.
From last year, it went up 22%.
But so did your taxable valuation, right?
Well, yeah, the one is the same, but still.
Oh, they're
But
equally
if that's made
connected.
22% a year, my tax will be
Yeah,
almost $16,000 a year.
I would hope that your house doesn't continue
I sure
to
hope so.
So
jump in
we
value by
raised our,
$66,000.
we raised our levy 3.5%.
Well, I
So
mean,
if all things remained equal, everybody's taxes would go up
this-
3.5%.
this don't keep up
But valuations,
with Inflation and everything else are
But-
really a burden for people.
There's different tax meetings throughout the year, and there's one earlier in the year where they talk, where you have a chance to object to your valuation of your home. So that, I think, happens in March.
I think it's March or
March or
April.
April. So when they send out those first notices, at the same time you get your tax bill for 2023, there'll be a notice for your valuation for the next year. That's what you want to watch for. If you think they are way off, that's your chance to come, show up at that meeting
I sure hope they're way off.
and object. Yeah.
Well, and
you
what I
can-
want,
you can start now, you can go to the county assessor and double check that valuation.
that's what I was gonna say. That's your first step because we pretty much stick with them.
This isn't just unique to Harmony, to the whole town.
Oh, correct.
Correct.
Yep.
I mean, if you watch the news, Ostranders jumped, I don't know what, it was 100, yeah, to 100%. So it's happening throughout the county, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
I mean, you're on a fixed income, it's really rough.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Well, Social Security did get the biggest increase in a long time.
Sure
The problem is that's not very much percentage of somebody's
Always
income.
right
Social Security.
All right. Well, we're still adjourned.
Adjourned and
Thank you, everybody.
I won't be here next month either. I don't know if I told you that.
You did. You did.
Unacceptable.
Then Kyle would like to be on the library board, personnel committee, and
So you're doing nothing now?
So,
I was gonna fade back into.
Submit
So
one
no-
with his name on it.
no library board because you never have a quorum anyway. Why even is there a library board for one?
For one, two, oh, God.
I won't be here next meeting. Yeah, I'm supposed to be sworn in.
February.
Oh, yeah.
Can we do it now? Nope, it's after,
Yeah, you should get sworn in because even though you're not here,
yeah.
you're still.
Or do you want to move the meeting?
Yeah.
Somebody can call you.
Anytime after the first
Yeah.
January, come in my office and we can do it.
Okay.
Have you signed the
That's
paper?
fine. Yep, no problem.
Right.
Because I'd still like you to look at the agenda and if you have input, although you can't vote from a call, you can talk to other counselors.
And there is probably gonna be a few things on there that
Yeah.
THC thing and
Yes. That will be on there because we have that,
I don't know.
planning and zoning meeting coming up the 21st.
So if we know you're, if, you can't talk to two of us, but you can talk to any one other counselor, right? And have a discussion about what's on the agenda.
Can I talk to two of you at different points, or I can only talk to one? I just can't have you together.
Yes.
Right.
And
I
so,
think you can.
so like an email, you can't do an email with two of us on. it.
Correct.
Right.
You can talk to individually
Individually.
as many as you want, I believe.
Did you say you wanted somebody on planning and zoning? One of us?
I'm on.
Oh, you're on planning and
I'm
zoning?
currently on.
He's on.
Oh, I didn't know you were.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, we're good.
So you can, I'm gonna get the thing from her saying what everybody's on now. And then, but
You gonna
what I
change
want
it up?
from you guys is probably not much, but if, you know,
Oh, okay. Okay.
so Michael Himley said, I want to be on this board. And I'm just like, okay, well, I gotta decide, because maybe somebody
Yeah,
else wants.
well, because I was gonna say.
So, So I would just like everybody to send.
Because you're on building and maintenance and
Building and maintenance and park board.
Yeah, and any committees you're on now.
That just did.
If you want.
Yeah, and then whatever.
You're on building and maintenance,
Yeah.
and that's utilities.
Huh?
Are you on utilities?
no, but I would, I can send you an email too, but I would
Yeah, because I mean, you were at that meeting, that's kind of a helpful phrase